We believe in a future where we lower the cost of living for America's families so that they have the chance not just to get by, but to get ahead.
On Tuesday, during the debate, first question was to the Vice President, are Americans better off than they were 4 years ago regarding the economy? She didn't necessarily directly answer that question. I want to give you a chance. What's your response?
Yeah, well, certainly an economy that works for the middle class. Donald Trump has been clear. I'll give him this. The one thing he's been clear about is he promised his rich friends in Mar-a-Lago, he said, you're rich as heck and you're going to get a tax cut. He did that. He didn't. He decimated the middle class. He made it more difficult. He put, more burdens on middle class folks. He doesn't have any plan for things like child care and an economy that matters to people. And the issue is as we came out of COVID, which Donald Trump horribly mismanaged, and I say that as a governor who understood it, we had to rebuild, and that's exactly what she's done. And we have now this new way forward. Certainly it makes a case to Michigan voters that they have an opportunity to see themselves reflected in these policies, not just a very few at the top. So this idea of home ownership, as I said, for many of us, that's such foundational to who we are. For these folks on Wall Street, it's just a commodity to be traded. And I think that's Donald Trump has sided with those folks. Kamala Harris is siding with folks right in the middle, folks who go every day to make an honest day's work and should be paid an honest day's salary.
What do you tell people who wake up, frankly, each morning wondering, how am I going to get by financially?
Yeah, I tell them Kamala Harris and I know something about it, being middle class folks. Our families sit at the table trying to pay the bill. We know.
We talk about bringing down prices and making life more affordable for people. Yeah. What are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
Well, I'll start with this. I grew up a middle-class kid. They can just get their foot in the door to be able to then engage in what will prove to be their opportunity to build intergenerational wealth. And here's my personal experience coming at that. I grew up a middle-class kid.
Hey, well. Hey, welcome back. It's your man Wise, and it feels like a political assembly line. Every time inflation comes up with these people, we get the same, I'm just a middle class kid routine. I mean, it's just flat out ridiculous. I mean, it's hilarious and also ridiculous at the same time. Think about it. Saying you'll lower the cost of living is basically an admission of guilt. If you could lower it, why haven't you done it already? And speaking of inflation, Kamala's latest disaster at the National Association of Black Journalists conference was something to behold. Her response to a direct question about the economy was just wild. But first, let's talk about how you can make sure that inflation doesn't wreck your financial future during these uncertain times. With the cost of living skyrocketing and our dollar losing value to continuous government spending, it's natural to wonder about the safety of our investments. In times like these, protecting your hard-earned money is crucial. That's why I recommend contacting my trusted partners at Lear Capital. They specialize in helping you safeguard your wealth by converting depreciating dollars into stable assets like silver and gold. Discover how easy it is. Call Lear today at 800-489-6450 or visit learrp.com to receive your free gold and silver investor kit. With over 27 years of experience and $3 billion in trusted transactions, they offer 24-hour risk-free guarantee, a testament to their commitment to customer satisfaction. Call 800-489-6450 or go to learrp.com right now. Take control of your financial security today with Lear Capital. So speaking of your finances, let's get back to Kamala Harris at the NABJ, where she was asked point blank about the economy. And her response, man, you got to watch this.
Madam Vice President, thank you so much for doing this and making the time.
Of course.
Just a little bit busy right now. We want to start on an issue that Americans across the country say is their number one concern, and that's the economy. A question that has been asked of you and everybody that's on the Democratic side is whether or not voters are better off now than they were 4 years ago. Are they better off now than they were 4 years ago?
So when we came into, well, first of all, let me just say, it is good to be with the National Association of Black Journalists, and I thank you for the work you do and that your members do every day. It is very important that we ensure that this organization and your members always have the resources and the platforms to deliver the voices that must be heard. So I thank you for hosting me today. 4 years ago, when we came in during the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. We came in during the worst public health epidemic in centuries. We came in after the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And a lot of it due in large part to the mismanagement by the former president as it relates to COVID and obviously January 6th. And we had then a lot of work to do to clean up a mess. As of today, we have created over 16 million new jobs, over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. We have the lowest Black unemployment rate in generations. We have invested in small businesses, and they're to the benefit of many people, but including Black small businesses, some of the highest rate of creation of new Black small businesses in years. We have done the work of capping the cost of prescription medication for our seniors for issues like insulin. And again, I'm speaking to the Black journalists who care about all people, but in particular, I'll talk about the impact on Black people, where we know Black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. And we have now finally capped the cost of insulin for our seniors at $35 a month, capped the cost of prescription medication for our seniors at $2,000 a year, because
I understand that diabetes is a big issue in the Black community, but instead of trying to solve that issue with medication, and I know those that are currently suffering from that disease, which is reversible, why is there never any conversation around getting Americans healthy, especially Black Americans who are more likely to be overweight and suffer from this diabetes? Why is it about, oh, the medication needs to be lower, opposed to let's focus on getting the people healthier so they don't need to be on these medications? For the life of me, I haven't figured that out yet.
Unlike the former president who promised to do it, we finally have allowed Medicare to negotiate drug prices against the big pharmaceutical companies. And these are just some of the accomplishments. Is the price of groceries still too high? Yes. Do we have more work to do? Yes. And I will tell you, I do believe that I offer a new generation of leadership for our country.
I do have a question, though, from something earlier on. What in the world does J6 have to do with the economy, though? You know, or the fact that Americans are struggling right now. What does it have to do with it? You ask about the economy, instead of addressing gas, groceries, and rent, Kamala talks about the worst attack on democracy since the Civil War. Cut it out, man. Seriously. Under Trump, we had record low unemployment, rising wages, and energy independence before Democrats came in and shut everything down. But sure, let's blame J6 and the COVID lockdowns for everything. The Democrats have had 3.5 years to fix this mess, and the result is skyrocketing costs that we see every day. Kamala's just dodging accountability, though. She gets these fluff interviews with soft questions like the one at the National Association of Black Journalists that feel more like propaganda than actual journalism. But the American people, we see right through this foolishness.
Vice President, Black men, as you know, are a closely watched voting bloc. You've hosted Black men at your residence.
Yep.
You have engaged Black men and centered them in your economic opportunity tour. But polling shows that some Black men, particularly young Black men, are considering voting for Donald Trump, and they see him as better for the economy. What is your message to young Black male voters who feel left out of this economy, and how can your economic policies materially change their lives?
So I appreciate the spirit of the question, but I'll tell you, I've often been asked this question in a way that I've had to respond by first saying that I think it's very important to not operate from the assumption that black men are in anybody's pocket. Black men are like any other voting group. You got to earn their vote. So I'm working to earn the vote, not assuming I'm going to have it because I am black, but because the policies and the perspectives I have understands what we must do to recognize the needs of all communities. And I intend to be a president for all people.
Oh, wow. Let's talk about the economy for a second. Black men, a key voting bloc for Democrats, are starting to look at Trump. You know what? They're not looking at Trump. Black men, which is a key voting bloc for the Democrats, normally are actually going with Trump this time around, and for good reason. When Kamala's asked if they're better off today or how can her policies improve their lives, what do we get? Everything but a straight answer. She can't even lie because it's so obvious that things are worse. If she hasn't fixed it by now, Biden hasn't fixed it by now, do you really trust that she'll put together a plan that will turn things around? I highly doubt it.
Look, I'm going to be straight with you. I got no idea what her plan is because there is no plan. This is foolishness. This is pandering. This is talking points. There's a reason why the Harris campaign doesn't send her out there doing interviews day in, day out, because this is what you get. If you want to talk economic policy, when the entire country is frankly bewildered about what your economic policy is, go to CNBC, go to Fox Business, go to Bloomberg TV and talk economics. She can't because there is no policy. It's platitudes. It's talking points. Listen, I'm wondering where the writers of Saturday Night Live are right now because you got comedic gold listening to Kamala Harris. I try to be professional. I try to keep calm. But this is infuriating at this point. We're less than 2 months away from a presidential election, and she's still talking about how she knows that prices are too high. Vice President Harris, they're too high because of you. It's your vote in the United States Senate breaking ties as vice president. It's your terrible economic policy. I could go on. I'm going to stop right now to let you ask another question because this is ridiculous.
Byron Donalds is 1,000% right. See, that's why he's my politician up there on the Hill. That's why. Absolutely right. And the reason is they're the reason Kamala isn't doing interviews. Her only plan is flaunting her middle class background while living comfortably off taxpayer and lobbyist dollars. Meanwhile, actually, you know what? She's worth about $15 million, I might add. So go figure that. Only worked in Congress, never started a business. From my research, hadn't even worked in corporate America anywhere, but some kind of way she's amassed a multi-million-dollar portfolio and multi-million-dollar net worth. Meanwhile, we have record high consumer debt and the lowest savings in decade in housing crisis, pricing out millions. They act like everything's fine, claiming they created jobs, but where? Most are just rehired pandemic jobs with wages that don't keep up with inflation. On the other hand, Trump, who's focused on cutting taxes on overtime and tips, putting real money back into American folks' pockets. Democrats, on the other hand, keep pushing handouts that don't solve the problem. Just look at the past few years. Stimulus checks and unemployment boosts only drove up prices, and now we're paying the piper. Yet they keep spinning the narrative while Americans struggle to make ends meet.
It's in her best interest.
Before we conclude, Madam Vice President, Joyful Warrior has been used to describe your campaign.
You didn't see that just a minute ago, though. Okay, I'm back to my joyful part.
And your opponent and Republicans have at times weaponized you laughing in campaign ads, for example. Why is joy important to you to insert into this election? And what do you make of Republicans using that as a way to suggest that you're not a serious candidate?
Well, sometimes I think, and I'll say to whoever the young people are who are watching this, there are some times when your adversaries will try and turn your strength into a weakness. Don't you let them. Don't you let them. I find joy in the American people. I find joy and optimism in what I see to be our future and our ability to invest in it. I find joy in the ambition of the people. I find joy in the dreams of the people. I find joy in building community. I find joy in building coalitions. I find joy in believing that the true measure of the strength of a leader is not based on who you beat down, but who you lift up.
Goodness gracious, man. So much joy, right? These journalists spent valuable interview time asking Kamala Harris why she smiles and laughs so much in public and how Republicans are weaponizing it. Are you freaking kidding me? People are struggling to put food on the table, and this is the focus. Honestly, man, it's insulting to me. It should be insulting to Black Americans, and it just doesn't resonate with me. It didn't sit well with me. I mean, she's out here dodging the real issues, because if they actually talked about her policies or her record, there'd be nothing to defend. When a candidate dodges real questions and refuses to admit the economy is worse than it was 4 years ago while throwing out vague platitudes about hope and joy, that's a red flag. Remember, they've had 4 years to improve upon the economy, housing affordability, and to make life better for Americans, and they failed. Honestly, they've failed miserably. Now they're pushing the same failed policies and more handouts. But that's just my take. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, drop me a comment. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. Consider joining the ARP family. It supports me to team the channel. It gives us the ability to do what we do on a day-to-day basis. Keep God first in your life. Stay prayed up, and we'll catch up with you all next time. Peace.